Hello, my friends. How are you? Welcome to another episode of 30 Albums for 30 Years, 1964 through 1994. I am your host, Jay Sweet. We begin today's program by asking you to use your imagination. Picture yourself in a field of butter. Are you doing it? Then ask yourself, why am I having you do it? The answer? Really no reason, I just wondered if you would. But there is a connection, I guess, in a sense, because today we will be checking out the Paul Butterfield Blues Band. Their self-titled release from Elektra Records, recorded September of 1965 and released October of 1965. All right, let's do it. In this series, we have already talked about the white British bands who reinterpreted the music of the great African-American blues artists. Bands like the Rolling Stones, the Yardbirds, the Kinks, the Animals, and even the Beatles cut their teeth on presenting their interpretations of blues and R&B. But the best white practitioner of the blues from the mid-1960s may very well be Paul Butterfield and his multiracial group, the Paul Butterfield Blues Band from Chicago, a city known for producing blues legends like Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, Big Bill Broonzy, Willie Dixon, and so many others. The Paul Butterfield Blues Band began in 1963 and was headed by, you guessed it, harmonica master and vocalist Paul Butterfield. The initial group included Butterfield, guitarist Elvin Bishop, bassist Jerome Arnold, and drummer Sam Lay. The lineup gained local attention while working at a residency at Big John's Club in Chicago's North Side. During their engagement, the group met Mike Bloomfield, one of the most underrated guitarists. In 1964, Bloomfield was invited to join the band, and with the support of record producer and then manager Paul Rothchild, the band prepared to record an album. Their first attempts were live recordings that were rejected. In July of 1965, the Paul Butterfield Blues Band performed at the Newport Folk Festival and attracted more attention, especially from Bob Dylan, who invited the group to share the stage with him for his controversial electric performance with little rehearsal. And if the band never did anything else, the group would have been historically relevant just for being part of that event. In 1965, the band also added keyboardist Mark Naftalin into the group to make their first album, the self-titled release, the album we are checking out today, called the Paul Butterfield Blues Band. The record is critically praised, but it only reached number 123 on the Billboard 200 album charts, so it was not a success commercially. Following the release of the self-titled record, the group continued in 1966. They became one of the first rock-based bands to incorporate Indian music. You can hear that on their record East West. Other bands followed, like the Beatles, the Byrds, and the Rolling Stones. In 1967, Mike Bloomfield left the group and moved to the vibrant San Francisco scene to form a new group called Electric Flag. Now, sadly, Mike Bloomfield died in 1981. He was pretty young, 37 years old. He died in his car with the doors locked after ingesting Valiums. No suicide note was left, and his death is still kind of a mystery. After Bloomfield's tenure, the group performed at the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967. Bassist Jerome Arnold was replaced by Charlie Bugsy Mao, and the group added saxophonist David Sanborn, Gene Dinwiddie, and trumpeter Keith Johnson. The band continued to record and perform with a lineup that changed frequently. The Paul Butterfield Blues Band even performed at Woodstock, 1969, which further raised the group's profile. But frequent lineup changes and a change in the direction of popular music led to the group's breakup in 1971. Following the breakup, Paul Butterfield began the band Paul Butterfield's Better Days and appeared as a sideman, playing with artists like Muddy Waters and the group The Band, and members from that group as well. In the 1980s, Butterfield developed a heroin addiction, and he died of an overdose in 1987 at the age of 44. The Paul Butterfield Blues Band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2015, despite never having an album that charted higher than 52.